Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 12 of How to Win Big at Business. If this is your first time, welcome. And let me just briefly explain what this podcast is all about. If you're a self employed professional, whether you're a newbie or you've been in business for a long time, I know personally the obstacles and the struggles that we all go through. And this podcast has been created specifically to address those issues, one issue at a time, bringing it in simple terms so anybody can understand and take actionable results to overcome those obstacles. Let's face it, folks, entrepreneurship can be a lonely road. It can be tough, but it can also be one of the most profitable, rewarding things that you've ever done in your life. It ain't easy though. It's tough. And once you can accept that, you're on the road to success. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about the old, old issue that's on everybody's mind, which is pricing. How do I set my prices? So you don't want to set them too low and undervalue your worth, and you don't want to set them too high, which is going to scare everyone away. So you want to be somewhere in the middle. So the $64 billion question is, what's the middle? Where do I start? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you from my own experience and then the experience of thousands of other entrepreneurs that I've worked with over my 40 years. But let's start with me because it was simple. Early in my accounting career, I was done. I was done with accounting. I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't what I thought it would be. So what did I do? I did what most people do. I became a life insurance salesman, believe it or not. My objective was to take the financial knowledge that I had and bring it to insurance, investments, and do financial planning for individuals. And the truth was that I was a terrible salesman. That was the fact. So it lasted actually less than a year. But here's the connection. I needed to be in front of people. I needed clients. I needed prospects. So being an experienced tax preparer, I said, well, what could be more perfect than getting people to and do their taxes? So the strategy, and it worked. It worked very well. I put an ad in the newspaper, and I offered people a ridiculous deal. I said, every tax return I will do for $35 flat fee. Now this was 1993. So extrapolate to today's dollars, let's say it's $100. It was a deal that people thought was actually, some people thought it was a scam because they would say, is this real? And I said, yeah, no matter how complicated, matter how much time it takes, because my objective was to get into their numbers. And once they hire you to do their accounting, their taxes, they trust you. It's just a fact. So my phone rang off the hook. I got plenty of clients, didn't sell too much insurance, but I got a bunch of tax clients. And that taught me one of my first lessons of marketing because it was about 2 years later that I actually opened my first office because actually I started getting too many clients. I got a bunch of leads for business owners. So I opened my office. Now, keep in mind, for 3 tax seasons, I had been doing people's taxes for $35. I would actually travel to their homes. I didn't have an office. and do everything. And I had a really good system. So getting tax clients wasn't an issue anymore. But once I had overhead, because now I'm paying rent and I needed office equipment and a desk and furniture, I said, I can't afford to be doing tax returns for $35. I'm going to have to raise these people's fees. And what did I do? I didn't double, I didn't triple, I didn't. People went from $35 to 200, $250. And I said, well, I'm going to lose a lot of clients, but that's okay because if I'm getting more from the clients that keep me, it'll more than make up for the lost clients. Well, guess what? Surprisingly, I didn't lose one client. So what happened? So I was happy and I was also sad. I was sad because I said I just spent the last 2 years doing these returns for dirt cheap. But what I had done was I had built up credibility. I built trust, and that's why nobody left me. One of the things is once you gain somebody's trust, unless you do something, incomprehensible to lose that trust, or they just really can't afford you anymore, they're going to stay with you. So in financial services business, that's the way it is. But it rings true for just about any other business. People want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So that got me in the door and it taught me a lesson. The lesson was, hey, you can't start out at the high end. You can if I put the ad in the paper instead of $35, if I put it in at the going rate, who knows if I would have got any clients? Probably not. If I did, it would have been luck because first of all, I didn't know anything about marketing. I didn't know how to present anything. And my whole objective wasn't to get tax clients, it was to get insurance prospects. So that worked. And I take that strategy to just about everything I do now. So if you want to have clients, if you want to have business, you gotta have the bait. It's like fishing. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about a sales funnel. Now, I knew the individual tax preparation market, and I knew that once I got their tax returns, they would tell me their life story. If I asked them for anything financial, they would give it to me because they trusted me. So without realizing it, I created my first sales funnel. So that's the key. You want to have a structured sales funnel, but you have to have information in order to create an operational successful sales funnel. Number one, you have to know your avatar. You have to know them inside and out. What market are you serving? And also, what is your objective? If your objective is to sell a $10,000 a year service, you still got to start at the top. Something inexpensive, something that's going to grab their attention and lead them down the sales funnel. So that's one lesson. So you're going to have to learn how to build a sales funnel. But let's say you already have a successful client base and you're sitting there, there's only a couple of ways to grow a business. One is to add additional valuable services and charge for them. That's a good strategy. Another one is to get more clients, and last but not least is raising your prices. So how do you know what the market is going to bear? So if you have your set of clients, what you might want to look at is adding value and adding a little increase to existing clients. Now, what can possibly happen is you're going to lose a few clients. There's going to be clients that are very price sensitive. They might even be offended that you're increasing their fee. You need to be able to justify it. So in my business, we recently just went through a price increase, and it was needed because of the disastrous uh, unbelievable situation that we have going on with the IRS. The IRS has been creating problems, not solving them, still sending out notices. A lot of times they're notices that are incorrect. And believe me, I have my own tax problem that's been going on for over a year, and I'm a CPA. I got direct access to the priority hotline. So unfortunately, I told my clients the truth. I was transparent and I said, listen, I can't, it's not proper to bill any client just because the IRS is screwing up. So what I'm doing is I'm increasing all of our clients a small percentage. And two clients left, and one remained a tax season client. He just said he was honest and he said, I don't need year-round service because my business, which was full-time, became actually a part-time thing. So I'll do the bookkeeping and then I'll just hand it over to you to do my year-end taxes. One person left because she went from $110 a month to $140 a month. So that $30 was was too much for her. But sometimes what happens is people leave and then they come back. But the point is the two clients I lost was actually a gain because now I lost two clients left, but now I'm getting more revenue. Now, if you're one of my clients, which I know some clients follow this podcast, I'm sorry, you understand why I had to raise your fee. And nothing personal. But the truth is, and here's the real lesson. I design my Bedrock 360 tax solutions for for people like you, the self-employed professionals, most of who don't hire accountants. And I know this. I know this from being in the industry for over 4 decades, doing massive, massive marketing research. And that's the strategy. So when you get into that situation, what you want to do is you want to find, if nobody is complaining about your prices, in other words, every single prospect that you run into signs up with you, you're probably not charging enough because if everybody is signing up, you haven't reached that point where it's not too high, but also not too low. Other end, if nobody is signing up, it's either a problem of the problem is probably they don't see the value in what you're providing. So I hope that helps. It's a simple explanation on how to price your services. Give it a try. If you like what you heard, follow me, give me some reviews. It helps build up the following. And like I said, the whole purpose of this podcast is help self-employed professionals. So I'll see you in episode 13, which is going to be all about business structures. One of the biggest first mistakes that people make. They don't structure their businesses properly. Over now, God bless. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Thank you and goodbye.